Hello everyone, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott, and boy am I tired. My day is done, at least for now. What you see behind me is my antenna tower, and I worked on it a lot today. I've got the antenna coax cables run into the house, got them grounded, and I'll show that in a little bit. I did a lot of work today. There's two antennas on the tower. One is a UHF VHF antenna, and it's mounted at the tippy top. It's about 75 foot off the ground. And the other antenna is my HF antenna. I'm gonna tilt my camera up. And you can see right there, off to the right, that's the antenna itself. That's what's called a balun there. And that helps to mitigate the standing wave ratios in there. And it's about 4 foot away from the tower, which is what it's supposed to be. If you look just over my shoulder, you see a T-stake in the ground, and that's actually a corner of the dog run I'm going to build. But that's where I attach that HF antenna to keep it away from the tower so it operates better. So some of the things that I was working on, let's see if I can get back. If you look back there, you see a hole in the woods. I've worked on that a couple times, but today was the final clearing. That antenna goes from the tower base. It travels 180 feet that way into the woods. It stands about 10, 12 foot off the ground at the very end. And we did a lot of chainsawing back there today. I still have to go back in there and clear all that stuff out. We'll just have a nice bonfire. And then turning the other way, I'll try not to get you dizzy. The other half of the antenna, you really can't see it. It goes over the top of that tan shed, and we had to bore a hole back in there. But that antenna length is only about 90 foot, but I had to go back another 50 or 60 foot to find the right tree to kind of keep both sides of the antenna in line with each other. That's not overly important. You could be a little off, but I try to get as close as I can. This particular antenna goes down to 160 meters, which is a very low frequency, and as high as 10 meters, which is a fairly high frequency. It's all in the HF band, but where I operate and the things I do is typically in the 160, 75, 80, and 40 meters, and occasionally on 20 meters, so it works well for me. With this antenna, I can probably cover about half the United States, maybe a little bit more, depending on band conditions. And with the type of stuff I do with that antenna, it works out perfectly. What I wanted to comment on, changed hands. What I wanted to comment on was the UHF VHF antenna. And people talk about comms, how far will they go? Well, I have that antenna. Like I said, it's about 75 foot off the ground. I'm at about 1,140 foot, which isn't the highest point in this area I live in, but it's up there. And with this antenna, I've already tested it. I can go to another repeater, which is typically another antenna that's pretty high off the ground. I can go about 25 to 35 miles. So, and those frequencies, the VHF, UHF, they're line of sight. In other words, you almost have to look at it. You almost, like my antenna has to be able to look at your antenna in order to talk. And that's kind of a close guesstimation. There is a little, it does follow the curvature of the earth a little bit, but not a whole lot. And so when you start talking about handhelds, it's not like in the movies. One thing I want to show you back over my shoulder, there it is. That is where my coax cable goes into the house. I drilled some holes and put some 3/4 inch PVC pipe in there. But getting back, when you start talking about handy-talkies or walkie-talkies, depending on your conditions and depending on the frequency you use, the higher the frequency, the less it's able to travel through trees and such. So when you talk about these little FRS radios, GMRS, they're operating at about half a watt maybe. And, they're good for maybe a couple hundred yards maybe. They're not really designed for long range. When you get into the amateur radio, the 2 meter band, which is 444 megahertz thereabouts, you can go maybe a couple miles depending on band conditions. But typically, if you're in dense forest, you're not going to go that far because you only got a little rubber ducky antenna, and it's not designed for long distance haul. So when you're considering your communications plans, my antenna is 75 foot up in the air. I should be able to talk to handy talkies around me if they're not overly blocked by dense forest or buildings. Probably be a couple miles, maybe 10 miles. Maybe a little more, but I would not expect much more than that. What I'm doing now is I'm opening up my crawl space, and I'm going to try and tilt down. Let's see if I can. I don't know if this thing lets me switch while we're still recording. Hang on. No, it doesn't. All right, so inside my crawl space, I have lightning arresters, and they're grounded into the ground. And what they do is if lightning strikes my tower is also grounded, by the way, but if lightning strikes my tower, those lightning resistors or lightning protectors will prevent that power surge from going into the house and ruining my radios. They're about $35 a pop, but could save you a couple $1,000s in the long run. Of course, it's always best just to disconnect your radios and unplug the power if you really want to save them. So anyhow, I just got out of the shower. I was filthy, crawling around inside underneath the house and around getting things done, chainsawing today, a lot of chainsawing. But, when you make your comm plans, get the radios you think you want to use and then go try them. And, it's not like in the movies where you grab a satellite phone inside the house and talk around the world. That's not real. And the same thing with your handy talkies. Don't expect to talk a county over unless you're on the county line and your buddy's on the other side of that county line. But realistically, given good radios, talking person to person, at most it might be a couple miles. More likely it might be measured in yards, like hundreds of yards maybe. If you're talking to somebody like me who's up high, then that may extend to a couple miles. And so when you think of your comm plan, think about what you're going to do. Right now, like I said, I can talk to probably, depending on who and where they are, to a lot of people in and around my area. I can talk to other repeaters in other counties, but again, they also have antennas high up in the air. And I can get that way. And with my HF, I can go half the country because the signal goes up in the air, it bounces off the ionosphere and comes down, and does that a couple times. The CBers call that skip. And so for me, my comms are good anywhere from 0 to probably, 400 or 500 miles, maybe a little bit more depending on band conditions. But that's what I expect is about 400 or 500 miles. But it takes a lot to get you there. It's not like in the movies. So anyhow, just a quick update, just to let you know what was going on here at the homestead. I can check this box off and I can move on to other things. So you all take care, stay safe, and stay secure.